So I wanted to go from the general principles all the way from just big movement and maybe so that the small movement at least is understood academically. But it takes a while to get there. The whole problem with a lot of the channel approach perspective to moving is that you can't really do it well and narrow down on what you're doing until you can begin to feel the connection. So that's sort of one of the things that you always have to bear in mind. I can remember when I was learning, one day I was in the garage doing a form, and suddenly I had done so many forms and things over the years that I suddenly began to feel like a tensile connection through my body in a couple of places, not in all places at once. It just kind of started like that, and I was like, oh wait, this must be what they're talking about. And sure enough, it developed into that. But it's something, the point is that it takes you a while to get where you can feel these things. And that's why with the candle bar, we're basically looking at doing enough repetitions that we suddenly began to feel and then develop the connections from the hands to the middle of the body, okay, and then from there down to the legs. Of course, as you turn, you're going to get different connections, but gradually that all flows into one. Let me start from the basic theory. There's close and there's open. The hallmark of close is sort of that all the joints are bent and toward closing the body. So the knees and the elbows are bent in, the back bends over slightly, and so you're closed. When you go to open, the joints open, so the knees sort of straighten and go out, the elbows straighten and go up and out. Okay, so this is closed, and this is open. Every movement can be described in terms of open and close. And so we look at open and close, and there's close to open this way where the hands come up the middle. Or we could do close and bring the hands up the outside to open. Okay, so still when you're closed, your knees will be in, the elbows slightly in. When you're open, the elbows are out and the knees are out. Okay, since there's another consideration you can look at is that if I, let's say, move to push something, I'm going to start from close, and I'll sort of bounce down into the ground to start my open. And as I open, I'm back in that situation where the elbows are straightened out and the knees are straightened out. So when I do that, I bounce slightly into the ground. The force comes up my back and pushes out my arm. So the force came up my back, and as I push my arm out, you can say that it goes down my front. So it goes like this. So in that case, they'll talk about an orbit. There's an orbit or circle of power that goes up the back and down the front. So that orbit is going one way. Now I can hit another way where I'm closed, okay, and I hit with my elbow over to this side. All right, so what happens there is I'm pushing up the front in this case. The muscle tendon channel related to the stomach is the one that controls the push up the front, okay? And then as I go down the back, my butt goes out and down and assists the going down. So the two orbits are up the back, down the front, up the front, and down the back. Those are the two orbits. So when I do something like this, it's normally going to be going up the back and down the front. So our normal circle that we make like this is up the back and down the front. Open, close. The back handles the open, the front handles the close. If I do the other way, then I can go up the front and bend the hips so that it comes down the back. Okay, so up the front, down the back. These can be jiggered around, these ways of doing things. I'm just giving you the sort of a basic stick figure view of how it works. So up the front, down the back. Up the back, down the front. Okay? So gradually as you work these things over time, you begin to feel the connections. Okay, and what you're basically doing is moving enough so that almost by happenstance and a lot of work, you begin to suddenly feel these things develop. Now, so one of the things that I keep insisting on in the videos is that you maintain a slight stretch. Because if you have a slight stretch, you can begin to feel the connections quicker. So if I go up the front, up the back like this, and I'm keeping my fingers extended and now across, so I'm still extended, I can feel the connection from my fingertips to my middle. And then as I turn away, I'm still keeping the stretch to the fingertips. As I get to where it begins to approach a little closer, I'm turning and twisting so that the elbow comes in and the arm is twisted. The twisting of the arm helps maintain the connection. You see? But these are things you'll discover as you explore. There's another way. Oh, and by the way, what we're trying to do is get to the point where the upper body, the movements, are almost entirely controlled by the body from here down. Okay, so the upper body should be relaxed, and the lower body, you can be just as strong as you want to be. It doesn't matter so much. It's just that the power developed by the lower body is going to be brought up through these connections to the hands. All right. So, but we can add to this slight feeling of stretch that we need by inhaling and pulling in the tissues. So if I reach out and stretch like this to the sides, and I inhale with a reverse breath, as I do that, a couple of things happen. One is as I pull my stomach in, it begins to pull the tissues from the fingertips toward the middle of the body. And this is augmented by the fact that as I inhale and I contain it within the middle of the body, the pressure in the central part of the body goes up. And that adds to the slight feeling of tension that I feel from the fingertips toward the middle. Okay, so I've got a stretch, I've got tissue being pulled in, and I've got pressure that's adding to everything. Well, what happens when we're going back to our standard arm wave like this is it's really just one half of the close and open, close and open. And we can think of it like this. Inhale and pressurize as you close. Now you're all ready to go. So I'm going to kind of bounce out of my foot and let that go up my back and out. So I can have a nice basic exercise that looks like this. Notice I'm turning to the side to augment it. Or I could go the other way. Pressurize, bounce, unpressurize. Pressurize and go down. Bounce, pressurize, come up. So pressurize, go down, or close. And exhale as you push off the foot. Okay, so that idea of inhaling and pressurizing to augment the stretch of the tissues is something you can add particularly to your empty hand practices. Okay, so just remember that with the inhale, you need to start feeling like you pull things in. So I take my arm, I inhale, and sure enough, I can feel it pull in. I can use it to augment a close of the arm. I can decide I want to use the tissues over the top of the arm and down the back, and use it to help hold the arm in place while I lift it with my middle. Okay, so that's good practice. I could inhale and stretch everything, think about my legs. Down the inside of the leg, of my right leg. So I'm stretching, inhaling, pressurizing, and then triggering that to let it pull the leg in. So I can do this on tissues all over the body. Doing it exaggerated so you can see the bounce I'm making. Okay, and gradually I can use that sort of movement practice going along certain lines and whatever I want to do, whatever movement, inhaling, stretching, and pressurizing. So that will help my overall development, speed it up quite a bit. So you can pretty much make up your own exercises once you understand that principle. And if you do something like that, you'll actually just be making up your own Qigong. If I'm doing this type of movement, watch my legs. Notice how I'm starting with the legs. So here's my twist getting ready to go back this way. I'll move the legs, that'll increase the pressure up the back, bring me across. I move the legs in this direction, which helps bring the middle in and helps bring me back this way. So I'm going in a greatly exaggerated manner like this. As I get where I can feel that I'm moving the arm with the legs in the middle, I want to begin to still my movements and not have so much movement invested in moving the limbs of the body and everything. I want to use the elastic connections that I can feel to move the arms, but I don't want to waste so much energy and gross movement. Okay, so gradually they take this idea to an extent where the body is sitting like on a stool, and you'll see a movement like this, or you'll see Tai Chi Bong movements, and they're doing it in a stool-like shape so that they maximize the amount of elastic tensions they're pulling on. But the tensions and muscles are acting very exactly the same as if I was doing this sort of movement. It's just that now I still it, and I use the elasticity. You'll see some slight movement. Okay, even a movement just in and out. Here's in. I'm going back and then forward. Okay, so and I'm using Jing to pull the whole body. After a while, I can still any movement, but I have to, while I'm practicing, make sure that I'm using the elasticity of the muscles in the same way as if I was doing a large movement. So I may start with a movement that looks like this, with the legs going, and begin to still it. Okay, so that's how you begin to shrink it down from large movements to small movements. And it doesn't hurt to play with this a little bit as you're practicing occasionally, just to see how much closer and closer you're getting to doing it without the gross movements. Anyway, hope that helps.